There comes a moment in life when you're doing everything right, a broken bar, but nothing feels right. You're pushing harder, you're planning more, you're trying to control every step, every outcome, every persona, yet still, life slips through your fingers like sand. You cry silently at night, wondering why the world doesn't respond to your effort. You feel like you're holding the sky up with your bare hands, a broken bar, and no one notices. You pray for peace, but it never lasts. You fight for control, but you keep losing yourself. If that pain feels familiar, then this message is for you. Because here's the truth you might not want to hear: control is an illusion that creates inner chaos. We live in a world obsessed with control. From the moment we wake up, we are surrounded by expectations of how our day should go, how people should behave, how our careers should unfold, and how our relationships should progress. We map out every detail, predict every move, and plan for every outcome. And in doing so, we unknowingly build a trap around ourselves, one made of anxiety, disappointment, and restlessness. The pursuit of control starts subtly. We tell ourselves it's responsible to plan. We believe that if we just manage everything perfectly, we can prevent pain, avoid failure, and guarantee happiness. And for a while, it may even seem like it's working. The schedules are tight, the emails are answered, the goals are set, you're on track. But beneath the surface, something begins to feel off. You start to notice the tension in your chest. You grow irritated when things don't go exactly as expected. You lose sleep over uncertainties that haven't even happened yet. Slowly, control of the thing you thought would bring you peace starts becoming your prison. The illusion of control is seductive because it gives us a false sense of safety. It convinces us that if we hold on tightly enough, we can prevent life from hurting us. But life was never meant to be tamed. It was never designed to follow our scripts. Control is a lie we tell ourselves when we're afraid to feel powerless. And that fear, when left unchecked, starts to dominate our inner world. Think about how often we try to control others, their thoughts, their actions, their reactions. We want our partners to respond exactly how we need them to. We want our children to grow up exactly how we imagine. We want our coworkers to act the way we expect. But people are not projects to be managed. They are living, breathing beings with their own paths. The more we try to bend them to our will, the more distance we create. Love turns into pressure. Connection turns into conflict. Intimacy is replaced by performance. And what about time? We obsess over it. We try to control when things should happen, when we should succeed, when we should get married, when we should achieve our dreams. We believe delays mean failure, and setbacks mean we're behind. But life does not operate on our clocks. It unfolds in its own divine rhythm. When we try to rush it, we end up exhausted. When we try to slow it down, we end up frustrated. And in both cases, we rob ourselves of the present moment, the only place where life actually exists. The chaos doesn't just live on the outside, it infects our minds. Overthinking becomes a daily habit. We rehearse conversations that haven't happened. We anticipate problems that may never come. We replay past events, wishing we could have done them differently. Our minds become a battleground of imagined scenarios. And the saddest part, none of it gives us control. It just drains us. It steals our peace and leaves us feeling more out of control than ever. You see, control is not the cure for fear, it's the fuel. The more you try to control, the more afraid you become. Afraid of what might happen if you don't succeed. Afraid of how people might see you. Afraid of falling behind, of being forgotten, of losing what matters. Control feeds the fear it pretends to solve. And as that fear grows, it tightens its grip around your spirit. You become reactive, defensive, emotionally distant. Life turns into a series of guarded decisions instead of meaningful experiences. But here's the paradox: the more control you seek, the more unstable you feel. Life does not respond well to force. Just like a river cannot be squeezed into a box, your life cannot be contained by rigid expectations. Trying to control it only creates resistance, and resistance is the root of suffering. When we resist when we refuse to accept reality as it unfolds, we suffer, not because life is cruel, but because we are unwilling to flow with it. What we need instead is clarity. We need to understand that control is not the same as strength. Strength is the ability to remain grounded when everything around you changes. Strength is being flexible, adaptable, and calm in the face of uncertainty. True power is not about gripping life with clenched fists up. It's about opening your hands and trusting that you can handle whatever comes. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop planning, dreaming, or taking action. It means you stop obsessing. You stop trying to manipulate every outcome. You stop trying to make people behave how you want. You stop trying to force life into a version that only exists in your imagination. When you let go of control, something remarkable happens. You create space. Space for clarity. Space for peace. Space for growth. You begin to listen more, react less. You start seeing people for who they are instead of what you want them to be. You stop needing answers and start finding wisdom in the silence. And most importantly, you become free. Free from the mental noise. Free from the emotional pressure. Free from the exhausting chase of perfection. There is a deeper wisdom inside you, a part that doesn't panic when plans fall apart, that doesn't crumble when things don't go your way. That part of you knows how to trust, but it cannot speak while control is screaming. So ask yourself, what are you holding onto so tightly right now? What fear is driving your need to manage every detail? Who are you trying to change that was never yours to fix? Letting go is terrifying. It feels like walking into the unknown. But the truth is, you've been living in the unknown all along. Control just made you feel like you weren't. When you surrender control, you're not giving up responsibility. You're stepping into a higher responsibility. One where your job is not to direct the storm, but to navigate through it with wisdom. One where your peace doesn't depend on how things look, but on how you choose to respond. One where your power isn't in making everything happen, but in staying calm when it doesn't. Chaos begins within, but so does peace. And peace comes when you finally realize that life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be experienced. Let it be messy. Let it be uncertain. Let it be human. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of true inner strength. Surrender is strength, not weakness. There is a quiet kind of power in surrender, and strength so misunderstood that most people spend their whole lives running from it. They think surrender means giving up, that it's the final breath of someone who's lost, that it belongs to the weak, the broken, the defeated. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Surrender is not what happens when you lose your fight. Surrender is what happens when you stop fighting what was never yours to control in the first place. From a young age, we are taught to conquer, to resist, to win. We're told to keep pushing, to never quit, to outwork and outlast everything that stands in our way. And in many ways, that drive has built incredible things: businesses, nations, legacies. But it has also built stress, burnout, disconnection, and emotional walls. Somewhere along the way, we confused control with strength and labeled surrender as failure. We started believing that if we couldn't force life into shape, we must be losing the battle. But real strength is not always loud. It doesn't always look like standing tall or fighting harder. Sometimes, strength looks like falling to your knees and whispering, "I don't have to carry this anymore." It looks like walking away from the noise so you can finally hear yourself think. It looks like choosing peace over pride. It looks like letting go of a dream that's hurting you more than it's helping you. Surrender is not a collapse. It is a decision. It's a conscious, courageous choice to stop resisting reality. It means looking life in the eye and saying, "I accept what is, even if I don't understand it right now." That's not weak. That takes a level of emotional maturity that most never reach, because it's much easier to keep fighting, to keep pretending, to keep grasping at control, than it is to let go with grace. When you surrender, you don't become passive. You don't stop caring. You simply stop arguing with the moment. You stop needing to be right. You stop needing life to follow your plan. You start showing up with presence instead of pressure. You start breathing deeper. You start trusting the timing of things. And from that place of surrender, real transformation begins. Think about all the energy we waste trying to force things. We try to force people to love us, even when they don't. We try to force careers that no longer feed our soul. We try to force ourselves into roles, identities, and expectations just to feel accepted. We try to force healing on a timeline. We try to force clarity when we're still confused. We try to force life to answer questions we're not yet ready to hear. All of it leads to more pain, more frustration, more inner tension. But the moment you stop forcing, when you pause and say, Maybe I don't need to fix this all right now. You begin to feel a shift. Your shoulders lower, your breath softens, your mind clears. That's the power of surrender. It takes the weight of control off your chest and gives you room to feel, to reflect, to be. And from that space, new strength rises, and not the kind that overpowers, but the kind that endures. You learn to see that life doesn't always need your interference. Some things are meant to fall apart. Some things are meant to be delayed. Some people are meant to leave, not because you failed, but because your journey requires a different path now. Surrender helps you make peace with those transitions. It doesn't numb the pain up, it just teaches you to stop resisting it. And when you stop resisting pain, it begins to teach you instead of torture you. That's a secret most people never learn. They spend their lives running from discomfort, trying to outthink heartbreak, trying to escape uncertainty. But surrender invites you to sit with it, to breathe through it, to let it burn if it needs to. And in doing so, you uncover a deeper layer of strength, to the kind that doesn't need life to be perfect to feel grounded. Surrender doesn't just apply to the big things. It lives in the small, daily decisions. It's in the choice to forgive instead of hold a grudge. It's in the willingness to pause instead of react. It's in the humility to say, I don't know. It's in the ability to change your mind, to release control of how others see you, to allow your story to unfold differently than expected. Every moment of surrender is an act of quiet power, and it's not always easy. Letting go often feels like breaking apart, because we become so attached to the way we think things should be. We confuse familiarity with safety. We hold on to relationships that drain us. We cling to identities that no longer reflect who we are. We resist growth because it asks us to release the version of ourselves we've outgrown. But surrender is how we evolve. It's how we shed the old skin. It's how we make space for the new life trying to reach us. Think of the strongest people you've ever met, the ones who radiate calm in chaos, the ones who move through storms with grace, the ones who don't force their opinions, who listen deeply, who hold space for others without trying to fix them. That's not weakness, that's strength, that's surrender in action. They have learned that life does not reward control, it rewards alignment, and you can align with life when you're at war with it. Surrender also teaches you self-trust. When you no longer rely on controlling everything around you, you begin to rely on your inner compass. You learn to trust your intuition, your values, your ability to respond with integrity. You stop needing certainty from outside because you've found stability within, and that kind of trust is unshakable. It allows you to walk into the unknown with your head high, knowing that even if the path is unclear, you'll figure it out as you go. There's incredible peace in that, a kind of peace that can't be earned through effort alone. It comes when you stop striving and start being, when you stop grasping and start allowing, when you stop doubting and start listening. Surrender is not the end of your power, it's the beginning of it. Because when you surrender, you are no longer trying to move the ocean, you are learning how to float. You begin to understand that things will fall into place, not because you forced them to, but because you showed up in alignment with who you are. You stop chasing. You stop proving, you stop pretending, you start allowing life to support you. You start working with it instead of against it. You start trusting that what is meant for you will arrive, not by your control, but by your openness. This is not about being passive, it's about being wise. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen, when to hold on and when to let go. That discernment only comes from surrender, from stepping back far enough to see clearly, from humbling yourself enough to say, I don't know the way, but I trust that it will be shown to me. The strongest trees bend with the wind. The most powerful rivers carve mountains not by force, but by persistence. Nature teaches us this lesson every day. Surrender does not mean weakness. It means alignment with something greater than force. It means trusting the current instead of fighting it. It means recognizing that your worth does not depend on outcome, as it lives in how you carry yourself through the unknown. So the next time you feel like you're losing control, ask yourself, what if this is not a breakdown? What if this is a breakthrough? What if letting go is the very thing that will carry you forward? That is the wisdom of surrender. That is the strength most never find. Because surrender is not giving up, it's showing up fully, without the need to dominate the moment. It's being present. It's being grounded. It's being real. And in that realness, In that raw humility, there is a power that no amount of control can ever give you. Lasting change begins within. Change is something we all crave at some point. We want better lives, stronger relationships, healthier bodies, clearer minds, more success, more peace. We set goals, write down resolutions, chase after new beginnings. But for most people, those changes don't last. They might change their surroundings, switch careers, leave relationships, start new routines, but eventually, the old patterns resurface. The same doubts, the same habits, the same emotional triggers return, and it feels like they're back at square one. Why does that happen? Because real, lasting change doesn't come from rearranging your life on the outside. It begins deep within. Everything you see in your life right now is a reflection of what's happening inside you. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotional patterns, they shape your actions, and your actions shape your reality. You can try to paint over a cracked wall, but if the foundation is broken, the cracks will always return. It's the same with personal growth. You can change the surface, but if you don't transform the internal roots, the change won't last. We often think, if I could just fix this one part of my life, I'd finally be happy. But happiness, peace, and strength are not conditions you earn by solving external problems. They are states of being that emerge from inner clarity. You can move to a new city, get a new job, find a new partner, build a new lifestyle, but if your inner world is full of doubt, fear, insecurity, or bitterness, those emotions will follow you wherever you go. Because no matter where you are still there, and you bring all of you with you: your unresolved pain, your beliefs, your fears, and your mindset. That's why the most powerful work you can do is inner work. The most lasting change comes not when you fix the world around you, but when you change the way you see, the way you feel, the way you respond. When you heal the root instead of trimming the leaves. When you understand that the problem is not always in the situation, it's often in your perception of it. You can't control everything that happens in your life, but you can control how you meet it. You can't dictate the behavior of others, but you can choose your boundaries and responses. You can't escape pain or failure, but you can decide what those moments mean to you. And that inner decision, that shift in mindset, is where real power lies. That's where change starts. Lasting change is not made through pressure. It's made through presence. It doesn't come from criticizing yourself into improvement. It comes from understanding yourself into transformation. You don't grow stronger by attacking your flaws. You grow stronger by seeing them with compassion, and then choosing differently. That choice, that conscious, repeated decision to act from a place of awareness is what creates new patterns. Not for a day, not for a week, but for a lifetime. Look at the habits you've built. Some are formed out of survival. Some are taught to you. Some were created by the fear of not being good enough, or the pressure to be accepted. And some were shaped by trauma you never asked for. But here's the truth. Those patterns may have helped you cope once, but they don't have to define your future. You are not your habits. You are the awareness behind them. And once you see them clearly, you can choose to break them. But that takes courage, because changing from within means you have to face yourself. You have to look at your pain without flinching. You have to take responsibility for your life, and not blame, but ownership. It means being honest about where you've avoided growth, where you've repeated cycles, where you've projected your wounds onto others. It's not easy. It's one of the hardest things a human being can do. But it's also the most liberating, because when you begin to take that inward journey, when you start asking the deeper questions, you unlock the power to change your entire life. Questions like, why do I react this way? Where does this fear come from? What story am I telling myself about who I am? Is this belief serving me, or keeping me small? What am I avoiding? What am I really seeking? When you stop chasing external validation and start looking inward, you stop being controlled by the world. You stop needing circumstances to be perfect to feel peace. You stop needing people to approve of you to feel worthy. You stop trying to outrun your past and start healing it. That's where real confidence is born. That's where real freedom begins. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about remembering who you are beneath the layers of noise. Inner change also requires patience, because it's not instant. You don't wake up one day and suddenly have all your wounds healed. Healing is messy, growth is uncomfortable, and sometimes it feels like you're going backward. But that's part of the process. You're shedding old identities. You're challenging old beliefs. You're stepping into unfamiliar territory. Of course it feels hard, but hard is not the same as impossible, and discomfort is not the same as failure. In fact, discomfort is a sign that something is shifting, that you're moving beyond your comfort zone, that you're choosing growth over safety. And if you stay present with that discomfort and not resisting it, not running from it, you allow it to teach you, and the lessons it brings are the foundation for lasting transformation. You begin to build a new kind of relationship with yourself. You stop seeing yourself as a project that needs fixing and start treating yourself like someone worth knowing. You learn to sit with your emotions instead of suppressing them. You learn to challenge your inner critic instead of believing every word it says. You learn to show up for yourself, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That kind of self-respect earned through inner work is unshakable, because it's not based on what you have or what you do. It's based on who you've chosen to become. It's rooted in integrity, in self-awareness, in resilience, and when you build your life on that foundation, no storm can destroy it, because your strength is not external, it's internal. It's quiet, steady, grounded. When you operate from that place, your outer world starts to change too. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with something deeper. You begin to attract different experiences. You choose different relationships. You set different standards. You carry yourself differently. And people feel that. The world responds to the energy you bring. And when that energy comes from a place of inner clarity, your life begins to reflect it. That's how real change happens, and not from striving harder, but from seeing clearer. Not from controlling everything, but from aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And the beauty is, once you've made that inner shift, no one can take it from you. It's yours. You earned it. You lived it. You became it. So yes, change is possible. And yes, you are capable. But it starts with you. Not with fixing what's around you, but with understanding what's within you. Not with chasing a better life, but with becoming a better version of yourself. Not by controlling the world, but by mastering your own mind. When you do that, when you change from the inside out, the world around you begins to transform in ways you never imagined. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you've become someone who can meet it with wisdom, with strength, and with peace. That is lasting change. That is the power that no one can give you and no one can take away. So here's the question that changes everything. What are you still trying to control? A broken bar that's actually controlling you. Let it go. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough not to need control anymore. You don't need to grip life so tightly. The moment you loosen your hands, you make space for miracles to move in. You are not here to manage the storm. You are here to become still within it. Nothing changes until you stop controlling it. But when you do broken bar, everything begins.